I was in an entirely other universe. When a guy has a substantially bigger than normal, I had previously experienced pleasure from masculinity. I've had multiple climaxes since. I went into the hotel room in an hour so ago, and all of them, in my view, they were much superior than anything I had. Have you ever had an encounter with Jack? I lived for 10 years with the shame I felt. I was going to cheat on my hubby, overwhelmed by a sense of amazing pleasure, and I wasn't even sure why. I was doing this and everything seemed wonderful. Jack always treated me like a queen did on me, gave me presents, bought flowers on a whim to say I adore you, and the intercourse between us were fantastic. Although it has died down a little recently, we have two amazing children. Overall, everything was excellent, except for some inexplicable reason, I chose to provide myself to Mike. Maybe it was the months Mike spent at the office, wooing me with his praises and subtle stares. He offered me, maybe the excitement of doing anything behind Jack's back. Perhaps it was the rumor I heard about Mike's massive manhood from the other girls in the workplace. Maybe it was all. Initially, I was concerned about the following. Concerned how it will damage my marriage and family, but all of it has vanished. When I came inside the room, presently all I worried about absorbing as much as I could from this guy in the little time we would spend together, even if it meant being pregnant with his kid via this. All of Jack's ideas had flown away. My mind no longer had any feelings of guilt, only the yearning for another ascent. Max, I thought I'd make apologies to my ignorant spouse. I may even teach him how to do what Mike did to me. After all, the guy was now ravishing me. Asleep on the bed in that inexpensive, the hotel room had caused me to experience mind-blowing climax. He dropped on the bed next to me. We fell asleep in one another's arms. They promised each other to repeat the. When I awoke, I gazed at the clock on the bedside table next to mine. The clock displayed 830, which gave me enough time to clean up and return home. I informed Jack that I'd be working late, but I would be home by 10:30 at the latest. The hotel was just half an hour's journey from my house. I had plenty of time to get clean and come home to my husband. I glanced to the opposite side of the bed and realized that Mike had. I had already departed and didn't recall him. I left and felt it was unusual that he went home without informing his wife anything I choose to tell him. Every idea I had when I saw him at work the next day. I also realized that his side of the bed, it appeared like no one had ever been there. Strange, I thought, but concluded that he was most likely as tidy as he was skilled. I walked into the bathroom and inspected myself, and observed that, apart from a minor, Mike left me with swelling between my legs. There were no apparent markings on me. Good thing, I thought, since I didn't want to explain any unusual bruising or markings on my body. I took a long time. I took a shower with 2 douches to clean myself, increase as much as possible. I did not want to risk delivering Mike's bring body fluids to Jack's residence, at least. Not yet. After thoroughly scrutinizing myself, I put my work clothes back on, ready to go, taking another fast look around the room to ensure that I hadn't forgotten what I tossed down. I took my room key and glanced around to. Sure, no one I knew could regard myself as the only. The individual I observed was rather unusual. Attractive guy in an old-fashioned gray, standing on the corner in a business suit. Looking at me, he seems familiar to me, but I didn't recall him. I held a cigarette with one hand and maintained the other in his pocket, but what? I was struck by the absence of natural. He looked like a character, straight from an ancient black and white. I returned to my television program from the 1960s. Carr entered it and noted that the inside was dusty and smelled musty, as if the automobile had been sitting. It has been inactive for a long time. Strange, only a few hours ago, everything was different. I assumed. I rolled down. I attempted to ventilate it via the window. Initially, the automobile would not start. However, after pressing the gas pedal a few times it sprang to life and produced black smoke. Coming out of the exhaust pipe, I pressed the gas pedal several times to ensure the vehicle would start making a. I made a mental point to ask Jack to have a look at it in the morning. I went home. I wonder whether Jack would notice any changes in me. Let's hope he doesn't even observe. I assumed. I came home for a few minutes. Before 10 o'clock, I saw two unusual automobiles in my driveway. This is weird. I thought. Jack didn't mention anything about having company. The home appeared a bit strange too. I thought all of the curtains were incorrect, and the landscape has been utterly transformed. Of course, Jack couldn't do it all one day, and definitely not without consulting me first. I believed I doubled. I verified the address to ensure I was to the correct home, then parked on street. Jack had some explaining to do, I told myself as I stepped out of the vehicle. I stepped inside the home and saw that everything seemed incorrect and odd. All of my living room furniture, photos, and cherished keepsakes were gone, replaced, and to make things worse there was an elderly black couple seated on the sofa gazing at me curiously. "Who are you folks? Why are you in my house?" questioned the guy, who rose up and stared at me. "Strangely, I am Mark Johnson," he said. "This is my wife Linda," he said, pointing to the beautiful lady sitting next to. "Who might you be, miss, and why are—" "I am Emily, and you are in our home. Sanders and I have resided at this home with my hubby Jack for the past 8 years ago." I said that I didn't grasp what was. "Miss, I believe you may wish to leave immediately." Mark said, "We purchased this property from Mr. Sanders a year ago after his divorce became official." I inquired in. I was shocked at the sort of divorce I was just getting. "I came here this morning with my spouse before leaving for work." Mark started to approach. "Miss, I honestly believe you should go before I have to contact the cops." "Certainly. Please contact the cops." I said. "Something is going on here, and I aim to get there. Bottom line, this must be one of Jack's pranks." Mark picked up the phone and dialed 911. After speaking with the operator, he hung up and informed me that the cops will. He said, "You may be here in a few minutes. Sit down if you wish to wait for them." Here he motioned for me to sit in the deep chair next to the. I sat on the couch, thinking what I should do. Next, I took out my smartphone. I quickly realized that it was dead. It was especially unusual since I always kept it charged so that Jack or the children could reach me at any moment. Apologized to. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but could I please utilize?" I requested a phone call from my hubby. "Of sure, no issue," Mark responded, giving me. I called Jack's number on his phone memory, but got a notice stating the. I was saddened that the number was no longer in use. I tried dialing my parents' phone, but I got the same response and attempted to. I called Jack's parents and got a speedy response. Busy signal, depressed, and with no alternative. I returned the phone to Mark. "Are you claiming that you purchased this home a year ago?" I asked my hubby. Mark nodded. "Yes, we did," and he stated he sold it to us for very excellent pricing, and that was because. Did he mention anything about divorce? Why was he getting a divorce, I wondered. Linda talked, and he stated something. "A cheating wife," she murmured, staring at me. I was strangely astonished as to how Jack has found out about this so quickly. After my first date with Mike, poor guy, I could see he was devastated. I felt sad for these unfortunate youngsters. By this point, I was already in tears. My life and marriage had collapsed. It burnt without my knowledge. Soon after, a police vehicle with lights flashing pulled up to the home twice. Police officers came at Mark's door. I chatted with them first and then invited. They went inside, and I stood up. "Inside, please show us some." One of the cops failed to identify himself. I unzipped my handbag and removed my driver's license. The officer glanced at it and turned to, "Is this a joke, mammy?" I questioned whether this license is vacant. Looking at the driver's license, the officer had a laminated card. It was utterly blank. There was no photograph under the lamination. "Do you have any other?" The officer asked for my identification. I said that I had something in my handbag, but when I unzipped my bag, I saw that the other cards were entirely blank. "Don't understand," I stated. "There should be credit cards, ATM cards, and social media security card, yet they are all empty cans. At the very least, give us your name." Another officer, "Maybe there is anything in the system." Of course, I stated my name. "My name is Emily Sanders, and I reside on Highland Park Road with my spouse, Jack. I work as a paralegal at Jenkins Law Firm downtown. Certainly someone there can vouch for me." The police glared at each other before turning there. "What did you say, Emily?" "Sanders, ma'am," inquired the second officer. "Yes," I said, "Emily Sanders. It's spelled Emily." I said, "Sorry, ma'am. You'll have to come with us to the station so we can. Please confirm your identify." First officer: "We apologize for intruding on your good evening, folks," he remarked to Mark and Linda. The cops led me to the police vehicle and then put me in the back seat. I was locked inside. One of the police officers approached my automobile and rummaged in my glove apartment, bringing out some paperwork. They drove silently toward the cops station where I was fingerprinted. I was escorted to what looked to be a questioning room. Half an hour later, the door opened and plainly closed. The detective entered the room holding a folder. He sat opposite me with his hands on his lap. He put the folder in front of him. I went through all the preliminary procedures to notify me of my rights and reassured me that I was not suspected of any crime. "All I want to do is confirm. Is your identity okay?" he asked. I nodded. "You mentioned your name was Emily Sanders, correct?" he asked. "Yeah," I responded, "and you told us officers you reside at 1501 W Highland Park Road with your spouse, Jack." Added, "That's correct." I stated. "You also said that you work at the Jenkins legal firm." He questioned, "Is that correct?" "True," I said. "We have a small problem, Mrs. Sanders." The detective said, "Let's start with the fact that you fingerprints don't exist. I don't mean they're not in the system. I mean you don't have fingerprints. It appears like they weren't even eliminated with acid. They just don't exist. That's not all. We reviewed the data for this Locati 0N and found that it was acquired by Mark and Linda Johnson from 1 year ago. Jack Sanders, according to court documents. The home was sold as part of a divorce settlement between Jack and Emily." Sanders stated. I was astonished. What was all this discussion about divorce? Yet I am still married to my spouse. I saw him just this morning. I'm not sure how this is conceivable, I replied through tears. "Look, miss, I'm just going by what's in. Could you kindly inform me where the court documents are? Were you asked tonight?" "Detective, I was at the Gaslight Motel. Room 127, I said gently. "And what were you?" He inquired whether I was with a male. I said, gazing at the floor. What do we do with this guy?" questioned the detective. We messed around." I said. "You had sex, right?" He questioned, and I nodded. "Yes," I said. "And could you identify the man you were with?" "Mike," I said. "Hawkins, my employer at the legal business." The investigator inquired. "What have you got into?" "The practice of cheating on your spouse." "No, I'm not startled. It was for the first and final time, I promised." The detective found the file to be fascinating. "The information we have about you is highly extensive. Report by a local private investigator, hired by your ex-husband according to the private investigator report. You were. I've met Mr. Hawkins many times at Stayed at the same motel for many months. I shook my head and muttered, "This is wrong." I went there with him only once today. The detective groaned and slumped back into his chair, gazing at me. "Misses it, which happens. I know the senior partners of Jenkins. I phoned this evening and was informed that one Emily Sanders and her supervisor, one Mike Hawkins, was sacked nearly a year ago for breaching. He mentioned the company's policy against adultery, but it wasn't all he pulled. Photograph out of the folder and put. The photograph is on the table in front of me. A lady was seen resting on a motel bed. The lady has wide eyes and a gray face. Looked just like me, and to make even worse, she was wearing the identical. My eyes widened when I recognized myself in the same clothes. I lifted my palm to my lips, shocked. The photograph was shot roughly 3 months ago. Miss, the detective stated, according to responding police, Emily Sanders of 1501W Highland Park Road was discovered deceased at room 117 of the Gaslight Motel 3. Months ago, an autopsy showed that Mrs. Sanders died of an overdose. Sleeping medications are allegedly used with large amounts of alcohol. Thus, Miss May, could you kindly clarify how it is? A lady who looks and dresses identically like the lady discovered dead at a hotel room 3 months ago is now walking about. He inquired about my precinct and how it went. Happened that you just landed yourself in the same room where this lady died. I shook my head in amazement. This can't be. I cried. I'm not dead. I'm right here. I do not know what is happening on. Please help me. At least tell me where my family is. Please, I can't contact anybody. Well, Miss, I don't know where Mr. Sanders is. I understand he has moved out of town after his divorce. I know for sure. His former in-laws died soon after Mrs. Sanders' corpse was discovered. Oh my God, no, please inform my folks. Are still alive? I pleaded with sobs. I apologize if you actually are Mrs. Sanders' ex, and I'm not ready to confess it. I can't honestly tell you about it, he added. I believe Miss is putting me into hysterics. If you require expert assistance, I'll call the county behavioral center and have you relocate to their facility till we get this all worked out, he said, tugging. I shook my head. No, please. Do not do this. I don't know what's going on. You have to trust me. Just let me talk to my spouse. I can't do this, ma'am. I don't know who you truly are. Dressed like the late Mrs. Sanders. Like her, you seem to know some personal details of Mrs. Sanders' life. I drove Mrs. Sanders' vehicle, even though I'm not. I'm not sure how you started it after sitting there for so long. By the way, the registration plates on this automobile have expired a long back. Therefore, we will impound it until you may verify ownership and change the. I believe you need to register right now. Discuss this with a mental health professional. Please remain here, he urged. As he went out of the door, I lay my head on the table weeping. This shouldn't. I thought, of course, Jack will come and rescue me. The door opened, and 2 enormous males wearing odd attire entered the room. As they started to place it, I became aware that I was being placed in a straitjacket and started to struggle. Please do not do this to me. I said no. No, oh no, I yelled again, but the guys kept putting clothing on me. I couldn't move my arms anymore. I shouted as one of the guys injected something into my neck in only a few seconds. My world sank into darkness. Thursday, May 12th, 2016, 11:30 a.m. Wake up, sweetheart. Wake up, whispered a masculine voice. Are you okay? Emily, wake up. I gently opened my eyes. Emily, you had seen my husband's face. A nightmare, but it's done. Wake up. Darling, he whispered as my thoughts progressively trembled. I awoke from the dream and found I was in my bed with my spouse, Jack. I immediately threw my arm wrapped over his neck and covered it Faced with kisses, oh my God, Jack is that? I asked, of course, dumb who? Who else possibly be in our bed? He wondered. I sobbed, Jack. I missed you so much. Jack embraced me as fiercely as he. Could he have enjoyed cuddling this gorgeous woman? But he wondered what the heck is. She was talking about I'm right here, he said. I'm not going anywhere. You best not go. I said somewhere when I calmed down. I glanced at my husband, Jack. I said I had something to confess, and I am. I'm scared you could become incredibly furious with. Jack glanced at me with anxiety. Almost made a huge mistake, I said. Almost he implored Jack. Please don't hate. I have to tell you something, you know? We promised not to keep any secrets from each other regardless of how horrible they were. Yes, sweetheart, I understand you may speak to me about. He inquired whether I knew anything about it. Nodded. I know, but it's really bad. Have you met my employer, Mike Hawkins? Jack knew him well. They met at a legal. Jack might attend his firm's Christmas party. Tell he was a classy jerk in Riga. Right? God's gift to the feminine sex. Basically a legend of his own. Imagination, he might also tell Mike. He was attempting to put his hooks and private parts inside me. Yeah, I recall him. Well, Jack stated he has been trying to obtain. I want to stay after work for a long time. Except he doesn't want to work if you understand what I meant when I stated you meant he. Jack said, I want to get under your skirt. I realize that his mood is worsening. You are a lovely and attractive lady, what man? In his right mind, wouldn't want to. I would have sex with you if we weren't married. What I don't want to do is flirt with you personally. Like the fact that he knows you're married. He wanted me to meet. I told him I was searching for sex at a hotel. Oh, Jack said that. And you agreed. No, not really, I replied. But really I didn't disagree with it either. Kind of brushed him off. But he expects me. I'm not able to see him tomorrow, however. I'm concerned it'll harm my job. Don't. I guarantee you that it will. If you do this, it will impact our marriage. Yes, it might potentially impact your employment, Jack. Stated you know I won't tolerate. Your employer has severe policies about infidelity. Rules forbidding adultery you might. Both should be dismissed, and I would definitely file for divorce. I know I claimed I haven't done. I haven't done anything with him yet, but I am frightened. I know he has been with a number of other females. Everyone in the workplace says he's a nice person who uses marijuana to get his way. You believe me, right? Of course you do. Believe you, Jack. You forgot that I have been married for 10 years. Previously, we had known each other for 5 years. You were never able to keep anything hidden from me, and the guilt will devour you alive while we're on the. I observe that you have been I've been a bit out of sorts the past few. Initially, I assumed it was simply work, connected, but now I believe I know the genuine. Reasoning correctly, I dropped my eyes and I nodded. I responded gently, yes, I have been. I've been thinking a lot about this for the last 2 days. I do not want to leave my work. However, I can't live without you, and I couldn't live with myself if I injured you. And the children like that. What should I do? You're joking, right? Asked Jack. Emily is a clever, educated lady. Is it really necessary to ask? Or do you want me to? You don't have to spell it out yourself. Do this, Jack. I suppose I simply needed some validation. I know what I'll do, I said. Getting out. I walked inside my closet and took out a dress that I planned to wear the next. It was a gorgeous outfit with subtle cleavage and dropped a few inches over the knees. Weren't obviously attractive, but I still showed off my curves, and I took it from the closet and tossed it in. Garbage. I never want to see that clothing again, I stated. Jack seemed astonished. He said that the outfit was pretty pricey. Are you sure you want to do this? I sat down. Yes, I responded, on the bed, and tomorrow I will. Tell Mike not just no, but darn no. I'm going to request a move to different department. Maybe my pay will I don't care if they don't get caught. Give it to me, and I'll leave our marriage. More important for me, and I will do everything to keep us together. Can you ever forgive me? Of course I can, Jack. I'm a bit irritated since you didn't tell that bastard no right now, but at least now, you're doing the right thing. I clutched my spouse as if my life depended. I can't believe I was that stupid, Jack. Please embrace and tell me you love me, I murmured. Jack H at me back. Kiss my forehead. Of course I adore you. Emily, he has always said, but I believe we should have a serious chat. Consider this when you have settled down. Even seek some therapy. I can't believe it. You were so trusting, you fell in. I realized my affection for him. I promised that this would never happen. Again, I peered at the TV I spotted him on the wall beside our bed. I saw a guy on the street corner. My nightmare, Jack. Who is that guy on television? I asked. This is Rod Serling, honey. They're hosting a Twilight Zone marathon. Why did you ask? I've seen him before, but I wasn't sure who he was, so I asked how he was. It's probable that Jack died in 1975. He stated he was in my nightmare, but he didn't really do anything. He simply stood there. I viewed it in black and white, like on TV, and it was like, I don't know. I said something strange, and Jack said something intriguing. Someday, you'll need to tell me about. In this dream, Jack got out of bed. I'll be heading towards the door. I'll go downstairs and grab something too. Do you want some Coca-Cola? I would have some water, please. Remarked after Jack left the bedroom. Thank the gods for the dream I had. I quickly realized I had nearly entered the twilight zone of betrayal.